Alrighty, I picked for our prelude something that I think is very fun. This is the Yeshua Boys Choir, and it's not just a choir singing. I think you will get some good reactions out of this.
It wasn't here. All right, and you'll probably have a commercial first.
The proceeds from donated vehicles directly benefit the local.
It's yeshiva.
Yeshiva.
Yeshiva,
Thank you.
yeah, that's good.
Come on in, find a seat, we're just about to start.
Okay. What are you doing?
You wanna sit here?
I didn't know where the cats went.
thought that would add a little bit of youthful exuberance, but I think we're very stalemated in our little quiet positions here. Well, welcome. This is Timberland Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. This is the last service in regular time. So while it is the death of a church, we are going to celebrate the life of it as well, as it has touched so many people. I've gotten comments back from Julie Gaylord and Ash Burns and Lois Clemens and a few other people expressing their sadness, and my heart breaks, but this is where we are. All right, on announcements, let's go ahead and make sure that our phones are turned to silent, especially today. We don't want to miss any of Rabbi Katz's wonderful presentation, and he has assured me today that he was going to be very inspirational and not get into the politics of the Middle East. So I asked that during discussion, if we wait until the end, because I know some of you came here just burning to ask about it. But let's do that after service. That way, those of us that may have a differing opinion can go back into the room and eat something. Thank you. We are very happy to have Megan and Tom, Jonah and Clover back here, and we have Helen with Miss Corliss, and Patrick came back, and Mr. Adam is here. And I think that's all of the visitors. Now, I did have one question. We are going to go into meeting once a month. How does the fourth Sunday of the month, and I stress that because next month is 5 Sundays. So how about at least let's starting off with the fourth Sunday of the month, or does anyone have any other suggestion or criteria? Okay, if I could have members raise their hand for the fourth Sunday. All right, thank you very much. All right, we are going to have one song this morning. But before we do, I skipped a part. As I said, this is a celebration. And the values of the UU, our 7 principles, are listed on the back of your bulletin. And those things that we hold dear to our hearts are the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our communities. And I like that because all of us are at a different point in our spiritual journeys. And we're just here to help each other and moving along. A free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience, and the use of democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. Amen. The goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And as we know, the UU definitely stands for justice and social justice. And the last on our list, the respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And now, page number 1. And I picked this song because now that this building is going to sit a little inactive at times, more so than it had been, let's sing the protection on this place. All right, we are going to have a chalice lighting now, and we will read this in unison. We hallow this time together by kindling the lamp of our heritage and our covenant. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its gift. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth objectively, and to help one another. This is our covenant. One thing that I enjoy about leading services is I like to change things up a little bit and not go exactly by the schedule. And at this point, we are going to have Rabbi Neil Katz bring us a song.
So I'm going to share a couple songs today, just one now. And I was trying to figure out what to sing. I have a particularly Lufkin connection to this song that I'm going to share because I've sung it here once before, but I remember I was at Kerrville Folk Festival, I don't know, a few years ago, and I heard someone sing this, and it's a song by Steve Seskin called One Drop. This isn't in the order. And I fell in love with it. I found the YouTube, and I drove here from Kerrville. I was talking, did we used to have afternoon services?
Yes.
I think I was driving that whole afternoon. It was raining, I remember. And I may or may not have been watching a YouTube video on most of that 6-hour drive, trying to figure out the chords of this song. So while I'm driving, I'm writing down, and I got here, and I played it, right? And so every time I play this song, I think about my treacherous drive here. But I just love this song, and it's such a beautiful, uplifting message called One Drop by Steve Seskin. And he's talking, of course, at the beginning about Rosa Parks, and then about Gandhi. Another 12-hour day, working as a seamstress in Montgomery. She climbed aboard a bus. There was nobody sitting there when she took that seat. Said, I'm not getting up. It was an ordinary act of courage that sparked a revolution. She wasn't trying to be a problem, just part of the solution. And she was one drop of water in an ocean of hope, one voice of reason that finally spoke. If we're ever gonna get along, if peace is our desire, we're never gonna get there fighting fire with fire. She was one drop of water in an ocean of hope. He called himself a common man, not a hero or a saint. He knew war just leads to war. He fought for freedom, the non-violent way. Cause worth dying for. He believed that we can change the world with quiet dignity. Hundreds grew to thousands as he marched down to the sea. And he was one drop of water in an ocean of hope, one voice of reason who finally spoke, said if we're ever gonna get along, peace is our desire. We're never gonna get there, fighting fire with fire. He was one drop of water in an ocean of hope. Well, you can wage a war with words or weapons. You can pray for peace or make it happen. I wanna be one drop of water in an ocean of hope. One voice of reason that finally spoke. And if we're ever gonna get along, if peace is our desire, we're never gonna get there, fighting fire with fire. I wanna be one drop of water. I wanna be one drop of water. Let me be one drop of water in an ocean of hope.
Alrighty, I want to do sharing joys and concerns just a little bit differently today. I want to light the entire chalice and candles. We're each going to be entering into a new chapter in our lives, and this is for each of us. And I want to thank those that came this morning that didn't have to, and those that found out on short notice. So anyone wishing to share a joy and concern, go ahead. I will light your candles for you.
Okay, I don't like dead space. Does anyone have a joy or concern?
I have a concern and a joy. There is a family that's so much hurting right now because there's been a terrible disaster that's happened in their family and resulted in 2 dead and under horrible circumstances. And they need I don't know how they'll ever get over it, but they need your prayers.
I can't hear you.
Okay. There's just a tragedy and there's a murder-suicide in a family is what's really happened in Nacogdoches. And, you know, lots of children lost their parents or fathers. And I just want prayer for those the family members. It's a terrible, terrible thing. And also, I just appreciate you all. I'm conservative, and so this is not always where I come, but I've always been welcome, and I've always gotten a second opinion on things. And that's always good for us, to hear another side. I remember walking out of here one time from something that was said, and Susan running after me and everybody folding me in the center. And he's still running, so. But anyway, I appreciate you all, and I'm sad that I don't have a place to come occasionally to see. And the people here, and that's what I say to people when I come here, there's so much love, and you've taken care of each other. And there's so many places you just go, you hear the things, you're entertained, but there's not that community. And you've had communities, you've been involved with each other's lives, just, you know. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And I got up here because you lit that. I could never figure it out, and I said, oh.
Well, I made sure I filled all the oil this morning so that I could light this up for all of us. Anyone else? Okay, I'm sure that there are some things. Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to applaud the courage that it has taken to realize right now that the resources aren't there to really keep on a regular basis things going, but it takes courage to keep that hope, that light burning, to keep that once a month still. And then who knows who's going to come in and stumble in and want this type of home and has the skills and the enthusiasm and the energy to start, doing the different things that need to be done, because it takes a whole village to run a church. And we're all I live in Houston, we're just in different places in our lives right now that it's not being supported. So it can be, and thank you for the courage to keep it open and hope that there will be some people looking out there, and this home will still be there, because it is a paid-for building, and it's a perfect place to keep on going without starting all over to build a new Unitarian Universalist fellowship. So thank you again, and I applaud you.
The past presidents were great for one thing. They had deep pockets. I don't even have pockets. So hopefully your next president will be a multi-billionaire. All right, with all of the concerns that we have, let's go for a moment of silence. Whether you relax, you meditate, or you pray, or you just think into the universe. Our second reading before Rabbi takes the podium here is on the second page of your order of service. And the 7 principles and the 6 sources, I wanted them in print and I wanted them read out so that you can take these in your heart with you as you go about your daily lives. And the 6 sources of our living tradition are direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. Words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Wisdom from the world's religions, which inspire us in our ethical and spiritual life. Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. And if you wish, you can substitute spirit of life for God. Humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. Spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. And now, presenting Who is Wise, Rabbi Neil Katz.
Good morning, everyone. From my tradition, we have a book called the Mishnah, and there's a text in there that I think about quite often whenever I'm speaking with you. And it says, I'll do it in Hebrew and English. The sages asked in that text, Eze hu chacham? Who is wise? They ask rhetorically, to which they answer, Halomed Mikol Adam, one who learns from all people. So this becomes a kind of a bumper sticker for universal knowledge, and nothing is off the table in terms of what we learn. I recognize that this is your last service here for now. I know the future is uncertain. Fisher told me about that. And so I recognize that this is a special day. For about, 17 or 18 years, I've lost count. I've been invited to be a speaker here at Unitarian in Lufkin. But this was actually my very first invite. I think it may have been connected to Karen Peak back in the day. Maybe. I think she was our connector. I could be wrong. But I'm not exactly sure how it all came to be, but I remember getting an email one day back in the early 2000s asking if I was available to offer a presentation. I said yes, and the rest has been beautiful history. But after I spoke here, word got out, and then I started speaking in Tyler, in Longview, in Huntsville, in Dallas, in Plano. Every time I go to, I'd say that I'm on the UU circuit, but every time I go there, for many years, I used to patiently wait and read the magazine, the Unitarian magazine, which I loved. I actually ordered copies of it to my house because I thought it was so interesting to read. It's always been a joy to be connected with the UU community. And I've shared with you before that whenever I come to speak here, I always have to go to my file in my computer called Unitarian Topics, right? And it kind of keeps list of what I've spoken to as long as I can remember back, because God forbid I repeat something that I said 10 years ago, right? And so it's one of my go-to files, though. Whenever I personally need inspiration, I go, what have I spoken about? And since Lufkin has the longest list, because I think I've been here more, it's the one that I look at for my own personal benefit to see what I've spoken about, and it becomes part of my own personal and professional and spiritual reflection. So I'm just going to riff on this next part. I don't feel like reading this long block, but I want to talk about one of the upsides of being connected with UU Lufkin. Back in 2008, I received a call from a colleague, a rabbi friend in Baltimore. He said, hey, I need you to do a wedding for me. It's a congregant of his in Baltimore, but the wedding's going to be in Dallas. I said, sure, I'm available on that date. Let me know. Oh, one other thing, it's co-officiated. There'll be another clergy next to you. And I said, a Jewish clergy, like another rabbi, which would be weird. I mean, could happen, but he said, no, it's a non-Jewish clergy. And I said, I don't do that. I don't co-officiate with non-Jewish clergy. We can get into why, but I don't need somebody else there, and I'm very obsessed with making sure that everybody in the room is comfortable, Jewish and non-Jewish, at the wedding and so forth. But he was insistent. He said, look, all the other rabbis blew me off in Dallas. I need you to do this. I said, well, who is the other clergy? And he told me it was Reverend Dan Cantor from Unitarian in Dallas. I said, oh, well, that changes things, because I know the Unitarians. I trust them. I love them. Sure. And I had never done anything with a non-Jewish, I had never shared that pulpit before, that canopy. And so I met with Dan, who was amazing, and we put together a wedding for this guy from Baltimore, a girl from Dallas. The wedding was in Dallas. And it was kind of a pivotal moment for me. I was like, you know what was I afraid of co-officiating? And now, since then, I've co-officiated with a number of non-Jewish clergy, not just Cantor at the Unitarian, but a lot of Presbyterian ministers and some non-denominational Christian ministers, and all except one has been outstanding, right? One guy decided to turn it into a church service, making everyone uncomfortable. He missed the message, but I'm 10 for 1, right? So I would never have taken that first step out of my comfort zone had it not been for my love and trust of the Unitarian community as my first co-officiated act. And I think back to why do I even have that relationship? Lufkin. So since I've grown with this community, and since this particular day is one of closure and reflection, I'm going to ask you to indulge me on a bit of a meta sermon. I wrestled with whether I wanted to share this or not, but why not? I'm going to share with you a sermon that I gave, an adapted sermon, it's not the whole thing, that I gave to my congregation in Tyler about 8 years ago. Remember, when I talk to my Jewish community in Tyler, 99% of them don't know what Unitarians are, they don't know about the community, they don't know about the services, they don't know anything, right? So I'm just trying to teach them. And there's a reason why I'm trying to teach them. So you're going to have to, this is a sermon about you all, about me teaching them about you all, right? So go with me, this is me talking to them, and you're going to have to indulge me. I'll pause at that moment. There's a mild, comical part in the middle, but hopefully you're going to go with me on this one. Okay, so me talking to my congregation, adapted. If you asked me when I became a rabbi now, some 22 years ago, to explain what a Unitarian was, I would be hard-pressed to give you a coherent answer. But since I've been here in Tyler, I've become a frequent speaker at Unitarian Circuit, at their fellowships in Lufkin, Longview, Tyler, and so forth, right? The short answer, and I apologize if I get this functionally wrong, but this is how I explained it, is that Unitarianism is an ancient version of Christianity that rejected Trinitarianism, believing that God could only be one, and they rejected that classical Trinitarian notion. This made them heretics to ancient Christians, and so they were routinely persecuted throughout millennia, and so they lived quietly in different pockets of Europe throughout the years. But as Unitarianism made its way to America, their theology took root most notably in New England, and produced some of our greatest early politicians and transcendental poets and writers. In the past 100 years, I shared with them, the Unitarian movement joined forces with another simpatico movement called Universalist movement, which, by the way, has roots in the Reformed Jewish connection, for those of you who ever saw that overlap, which does not promote one religion, but embraces them all. And so now they're called UUs, Universalist Unitarians for short, UU for short. Within their fellowship, some people fall on the side of Universalists, embracing everything, while others call themselves Unitarian Christians, embracing their Christian roots, which is what I found in Dallas with Dan Cantor. They call themselves a Christian church, Unitarian Christian church, but it's interesting. I shared that their services, which are held on Sunday mornings or evenings, their services involve some non-particularistic rituals, meaning rituals you can see anywhere, like other religious communities. We light candles, we read poetry, we read reflective texts, we sing hymns, and we listen to a presentation by a guest speaker. The speaker at a Unitarian congregation could be a minister, a scholar, a poet, a rabbi, a local musician, a nonprofit executive, anybody that they decide to bring in that week. Remember my opening line, who is wise? One who learns from all people. Their approach, which I happen to love, is that they grow spiritually as they learn from everybody. And that is not unique to Unitarians, I shared with my congregation. We have that same idea in Judaism, to which I referenced that initial thought, right? That we learn from all people. So I was talking about Bethel Tyler. Look, we take pride, like I have had on my pulpit, Catholic priests and Muslim peace activists and Israelis and Presbyterian ministers, Baptist ministers, professors, and so on. Right? Not on a weekly basis, but we bring them in as guest speakers because we love hearing their voices. I said we could do more of that here, but I know that we have that same embrace in our community, an openness to outside learning and voices. I told them the Unitarians share that in common with us, but they do it every week. So that is why I will go to the UU Fellowship one week, and I'll speak about the Jewish concept of Midrash, for example. And the week after, someone gives a talk about Buddhism, and the week after, someone may speak about the problem with private prisons in America, and so on. But there's one part of their service that stands out to me as the most intriguing, and it's called Joys and Concerns. During the service, the leader lights a candle and asks members to self-elect to come forward and share their various joys and concerns. So they don't do it in Tyler anymore. They got rid of Joys and Concerns where people come up individually, right, because there were some problems. And up there, they offer just a blanket prayer for all joys and concerns. It's a personal sharing component of the services that are still taking place in Lufkin and Huntsville and so forth. And while I sit, again, me talking to my congregation, this is where the part comes in. While I sit in the service waiting for my turn to offer my presentation, the joys and concerns for me are the most nerve-wracking moment. Because there's no control on the amount of time that people have when they get up there and talk. There's no control as to what they say. There's no stopping anybody from getting up in the crowd and sharing. For someone like me who likes to maintain a certain level of control in the service, this is anxiety producing because all these variables are unknown. So again, I'm going to pause and say, before I read this next part, you'll have to indulge me. I was being a little hyperbolic for the sake of a sermon. I was being a little funny for the sake of comedy. And this has nothing to do with Lufkin. This is sort of an amalgamation of stories in Longview and in Huntsville. So please don't think that I transferred it back. Just go with me here because this has a sweet ending, all right? I'm nervous about this one part. All right. I remember the first time I saw this happen, and I remember keeping track of the various joys and concerns in my head. Where I was, the candle was lit, the leader said a few words and invited people to come forward if they wished. Remember, this is to a congregation that's never even seen this happen before. And what I'm going to share is a run of some of those joys and concerns that I saw at one particular service. The first woman went up there and told the crowd that she was having breast cancer surgery the following week. And she shared some details and asked the community to keep her in prayer. She used a long candle on the table to take the light from the main candle and light a little votive candle, and then she sat down. The next person self-elected and got up there and talked about how the coming week was going to be the 2-year anniversary since a fiance had passed away in a car accident. It was a painful time, they said, and they appreciated all the love from the community. They lit their votive candle and then they sat down. I remember sitting in my chair sinking a little lower and lower because this was a moment of deep communal sharing. Following the story about the fiance who passed away, a man came forward and announced that that very evening, the Cowboys were playing the Eagles. And if anyone had good in their heart, they would be rooting for the Cowboys over the terrible, terrible Philadelphia Eagles. And even though I happen to agree with him, I did a double take. And I thought, did I just hear what I thought I just heard? But they lit their votive candle and sat down. No sooner was I processing that moment when the next person came forward and spoke about how she had lost, I didn't mean to laugh, how she had lost her dog in the neighborhood, and she had put up signs everywhere, but it had been a week and she was worried that they were never going to see her beloved pet anymore. She then spoke about how much her dog meant to her and her family, and people were crying at this point. She lit her votive candle and sat down. The next person got up there and offered my favorite joy and concern, and they shared, this is not a joke, they shared that starting the next day, that Monday, there would be a 2-day sale at Big Lots where you could get 20% off as a family member of an employee. However, you didn't need to actually be a family member of an employee. He had checked and found out you could just go to the front desk, ask the cashier, and they would gladly provide you 20% off a coupon. But if you had to go that Monday or the Tuesday for this amazing sale at Big Lots, come on people, he said, 20% off. Immediately following her was a woman who got up there and talked about how her daughter had adopted a new baby. She lit a votive candle and sat down. 3 or 4 more people went up, and I was floored by this roller coaster of offerings. From lost pets and mastectomies to Big Lots coupons to the adoption stories and Dallas Cowboys. And this range of offerings continued for about 15 minutes. After each person said their piece, they lit their little votive candle and sat down. And finally, the leader of the service made a statement about joys and concerns in our hearts that may be too private to share, as she lit one additional candle to honor those unspoken words. It's actually a beautiful part of the service if you could sit through the wild diversity in those comments. And it got under my skin. Because I had 2 initial reactions to this ritual. Remember, this is new to me. And I still have those initial reactions. My first instinct is to be super appreciative of the opportunity that these people have, that our friends have. But my second instinct is to privately giggle at how some people rightly share their stories of health or family concerns, while other people think that in that same moment they should share stories of 20% off Big Lot coupons or political comments. To me, it was a strange moment, so I struggled with, on a reflective model, why I thought that was strange. What was so off-putting to me about that? And what then is the deeper spiritual message that I can learn from that ritual? I then shared, like many of you here, I spend more time than I should on Facebook, checking news feeds, looking at pictures of friends, getting angry about political posts, debating whether to unfriend certain people because of their comments. But then I turned to better things, like not Facebook, and I regained my sanity. But I think about that news feed on that Facebook page or any social media page. We call it now doom scrolling, right? If I scroll through the top 10 or 15 items that I come across the feed, the first one will be a political comment, an anti-Trump comment. The next one will be pro-Trump, right? The third one will be a picture of a friend who adopted their baby after waiting 5 years. The fourth one will be a link to a New York Times article about Israel. The next one will be a video of a duck walking next to a dog like they were best friends. Those are my favorite. Right? Then another political post, and it goes on and on and on. From the profound to the profane, from the mundane to the holy. My Facebook feed gives me no time to process those transitions from high to low. And likewise, when we watch television, for those of us who still watch the news from time to time, they move seamlessly from a story about a massive shooting to a puppy that was saved by a rescue organization, from local sports highlights to a story about a cancer survivor. Our hearts and minds are pulled this way and that, leaving no time for transition or process on one thing only. And it brings me back to the story of Joys and Concerns at UU. I found that as I continued to go there for speaking engagements to all the different organizations, I became much more comfortable riding that roller coaster, recognizing that some people have what maybe I consider silly concerns, like the coupon, right? And some people have important concerns. And I began to ask myself, who am I to judge them? Who am I to say that what's a silly concern or important concern? Why is it my job to decide that the Big Lots coupon is a silly thing and the loss of a dog is an important thing? And as I pondered these questions in those moments, it turned around and I began to understand. I then understood that joys and concerns were not only about the people who were sharing them, not only about the actual content of their stories, that it was a chance for me and for anyone sitting there to practice the art of non-judgmental listening. Little by little, I began to stop giggling when the Dallas Cowboys guy goes after the kitten stuck in a tree. Because for both of them, those are important enough things that they would self-elect to come in front of a group and share. As I scroll through my Facebook feed, people who post political comments or family pictures or dogs, it's important enough for them to post. Who am I to question their choice of doing so? So in the end, I found that the Joys and Concerns ritual was actually an opportunity to train myself to being a better listener. The Joys and Concerns were an opportunity for me to celebrate or feel sadness with the presenter, no matter where they were coming from. What an interesting spiritual practice, to be trained in the art of non-judgment. To train yourself that your first reaction should be one of patience and love and support. Imagine if you trained yourself in that practice and sharpened it with practice, you would be a holy presence to all those around you. By way of one more example, let me share with you the opposite. There are people that we are all familiar with, people who are quick to judge, people who are all too happy to tell you their opinions about what you're wearing, what you look like, whether your political views are good or not, whether they think that your actions are legitimate or unwarranted, and our personal favorite, the hyper-judgmental religious person, who would like to tell you whether you are right or wrong in your religious identification. Imagine if that person was trained in the art of listening, of accepting diversity, of concerns. That would be a welcome attitude adjustment. In our community, in Judaism, during the holy day of Yom Kippur coming up next month, a couple months, we have a petition for forgiveness where we ask God to show us mercy. And in one of those texts, it says, God, we ask for forgiveness for the sin we have committed against you by passing judgment on others. Part of the communal liturgy. It's not just a benefit for more spiritual community. Non-judgmental listening is a divine expectation. When Jewish philosopher Martin Buber wrote his famous work called I, Thou, talking about I-thou relationships, he had an idea of the potency of listening. He wrote that we must relate to another person not as an object for exploitation, not as an it, but as a thou, a unique and precious human being. He summed up his religious philosophy by saying that religion simply entails responding to the call of another. And he wrote that, quote, above all, we must listen to both the silent and the spoken voices. When one person speaks to another, he said, so that together they can remove the barrier between two human beings. For Martin Buber, listening, truly listening, is a spark, what he called, of I-thou. It is an elevated moment of relationship. How could we ever achieve that if we close off our hearts in judgment? There's a beautiful poem written by Rabbi Jack Reamer where he talks to this very point. So it's for the Jewish prayer book, but you'll hear the connectedness. He writes, Judaism begins with the commandment, listen, Israel, hear, O Israel. But what does it really mean to hear, he asks. The person who attends a concert with mind on his business hears, but does not really hear. The person who walks amid the songs of the birds and thinks only of what they're going to have for dinner hears, but does not really hear. The woman who listens to the words of their friend or their husband or partner or child and doesn't catch the note of urgency, notice me, help me, care about me, hears, but doesn't really hear. The person who listens to the news and thinks only of how it will affect their business hears, but does not really hear. The person who listens to the leader pray and does not feel the call to join with them hears, but does not really hear. And the person who listens to a rabbi's sermon and thinks that someone else is being addressed hears, but does not really hear. I then go on in the sermon to talk about how it's Rosh Hashanah, and this is a time for reflection, and this is about beginning, and how what strengths are we going to bring to the new year, and so forth. And then I return back to that message. I say, ask yourself a simple question. When you're listening to somebody, am I adding a level of holiness to this discussion? Or am I being judgmental and possibly violating a sacred trust between me and my friend? Am I being a good listener? Am I doing whatever I can do to help uplift that person? Ask yourself, what if we all did this? What kind of holy community could we build? The Joys and Concerns ritual at the Unitarian fellowships caused me to consider that practice in a new light. We are all guilty from time to time of being judgmental or talking before we think, of hearing but not truly listening. So let us commit ourselves instead to being loving and patient when we speak with one another, recognizing that these are requisite attitudes for holiness. Let us share our joys and concerns with one another freely, and let us truly listen to what is being said. I want to thank my friends here in Lufkin for introducing me to this community of love and openness and listening. And I wish you all the best as you continue on your journeys. I'll close again with that opening statement. Ezehu Chacham, who is wise, one who learns from all people. Amen.
All right, now for our visitors, this is the point where we have a discussion on the message. You can sit down, on the message that you just heard. And I'll open the floor for discussion.
Yeah, I loved what you said about listening, and I may have told this story before, but a long time ago I worked for and in the refugee community, and as part of that I would go from time to time to the Buddhist temple in Port Arthur, and the Reverend Viet was the monk there, and I went to speak to him one day about something, and while I was talking I suddenly realized how intently he was listening to me, and it was a little bit disarming and made me, and I've thought about that many times, and in that for someone who is an excellent listener, and in this transaction with the speaker, it creates an obligation in the speaker, which it did for me, because whenever I talk to that monk again, I was very careful about what I was saying.
That's interesting.
Because I knew he was really hearing me, you know. And so I liked what you were saying.
Thank you. I had a friend who, we were just talking back and forth about, I forgot, he was a Jewish professional, and I've known him since high school, so we pick on each other, but he made this comment to me, and I know he was half joking, but it was, you know how conversations work where you're thinking of what you're going to, he said, are you listening to me, or are you just thinking about what you're going to say next? Right? And it took me aback, and I thought about that, and I was like, good point, right? Yeah. Yes?
I'm thinking how wonderful it would be if we would teach listening in the public schools, like reading, writing, and arithmetic. I mean, it seems like a simple thing to just listen, but there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
And if we put emphasis on that, and I don't think we are aware how important that is, if we even put a whole semester, I mean, from first grade or kindergarten or whenever, on up. And it's extremely important for peace.
I agree. And that's sort of where I was going with, you know, here we have a religious community by way of a ritual teaching that, right? So if you all were numb to it, you saw Joys and Concerns, you didn't have that shock reaction, maybe you did, of what I had as an outsider coming in, because you were used to this roller coaster of just being able to listen non-judgmentally. That ritualized practice is what teaches it here in this community. That's why I think you are some of the better people around. But that isn't always the case in many religious communities, where it's less about listening and more about telling. So, yeah, beautiful.
One of my joys and concerns always is my daughter Rosalie.
Yeah.
And the grandchildren. She's living in a homeless shelter.
In Nebraska, or?
No, she's in Kansas.
Oh, Kansas, I'm sorry.
Newton, yeah. And the kids are with the state, and she's working, she's trying to get a place, and I can't do anything for her. don't have money, I don't, but the one thing that she wants is for me to listen. Let her speak. Don't judge. And if she asks for advice, offer it lovingly. If she doesn't, shut the hell up and listen.
That's a hard practice, but yeah.
I get it 3 times a week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your talk reminded me of something I learned back in Rosenberg. I'm a church member in a church in Rosenberg. Non-denominational church. Her name is,
What did she say?
she said, why do you think God gave you one mouth and 2 ears?
Right. There's a line on 30 Rock, one of my favorite shows, where he said God gave us 1 mouth and 2 ears. And then the guy thought about it, he said, but God gave us 10 fingers, so we're supposed to touch things. So cute line. Yeah. So, well, thank you.
Yes. All right.
I want to say, and that's one thing wonderful about Unity is that you have a talk and then you get to talk
Yeah.
and explain and stuff. And I've been church hopping lately. I can't even imagine going like, hey, I want to ask you a question. And then, you know, or I disagree with, you know, uh-oh.
Once in a blue moon, people will just shout out from the congregation to me.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, I guess this is chit chat time.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that, but it's
Yeah.
pretty rare. Yeah.
All right, let's read the Extinguishing the Chalice together. And then Rabbi is going to perform one of our favorite songs here, Be a Light. All right, extinguishing the chalice in unison. The flame is extinguished, but not our hope for the future, our courage in the face of crisis, or the love we share in all the world. Thank you for coming out today, Rabbi.
This is a song I've been playing for 15 years now, and I still need the lyrics. So, anytime I know I have to play it, I have to prepare.
Hey, did we not do the donation, passing?
You want to do that, or?
Yeah, we will, I don't know if I skipped it or not. I'll pass this around.
I'll just play some music as that's happening.
Yes, go for it.
This is offering music.
Sorry, I was trying to come up.
So I'm going to share this song, Be a Light, and I'll share with you something very exciting for me. So I've been singing it for many years. There was a rebrand of it in 2020 where I did a video with the boxes. You know, I had 15 friends from around the world, each sing a line, and so 16 of us sang this in line by line, and then joined together in the chorus. Just that was super cool. So this year I'm doing something very exciting. In 2 weeks I'm going to Israel, assuming Hezbollah hasn't demolished it, or Iran, or Houthis, or whoever. But my wife and I are going there. We're just going there for a week to go hug some friends. And there's a very powerful duo, a husband and wife, who are modern Orthodox. Anyway, they're phenomenal musicians. Their content online is just uplifting and sweet, and their voices are great. And I got Be a Light written in Hebrew, but I don't want to sing it, so they're going to do it. So I said, well, if you're going to record it, can I be there during the recording? And they're like, well, why don't you be part of the video? So when we're going to be there in a couple weeks, I'm going to be redoing Be a Light in Hebrew. I'll just do a couple words. But it'll be ready for this fall for Hanukkah time to come out. in Hebrew, Yehi Or, may there be a light or be a light. So that'll be the new version of Be a Light coming up. It's the song that keeps giving. The first candle I pray that you may be safe from all of the troubles around you this day. With the second candle I hope that you are secure in what you believe, that your heart may be pure. With the third candle I pray that you will be kind to all those around you, each new friend you find. With the fourth candle I wish you find delight and love what you do with all of your might. Be a light, be a light, shine proudly and loudly in the dark of the night. Be a light, shine so bright, burn glorious, victorious with all of your might. Be a light, be a light, be a light. With the fifth candle I want that you should be strong, do the best you can all your life long. With the sixth candle I pray that you will be smart, fill your life with learning, be true to your heart. With the seventh candle I hope that you will be fair, always remember those who live in despair. With the eighth candle I pray that you'll go to sleep, and while you are resting you'll dream a sweet dream. Be a light, be a light, shine proudly and loudly in the dark of the night. Be a light, shine so bright, burn glorious, victorious with all of your might. Be a light, be a light, be a light. One last time together, be a light. Be a light, be a light. Shine proudly and loudly in the dark of the night. Be a light, shine so bright, burn glorious, victorious with all of your might. Be a light, be a light, be a light.
Well, there is some great soup back there, and I know a little bit spicy, but Mexican corn pudding and other goodies that I didn't see, so go and enjoy yourself. Those that wish to talk Middle East, gather around that.